Welcome to the Family Law Now podcast, Managing a Law Firm During the Pandemic, Part 3. We did an initial part in March of 2020 when we all went into lockdown. We had a follow-up in July 2020. Hard to believe the end of May, beginning of June 2021. We're still knees deep into this. I don't think we should get too focused on COVID-19 or vaccine rollouts because it's so different everywhere. In Ontario, Brian and I are in lockdown till mid-June. I know Scottsdale, Arizona, and Florida are pretty much wide open. Sounds like Colorado's doing quite good. So let's just focus on sort of a recap of the last 14 months, what we're doing differently, what's working, what's not working, and predictions for the future. But before we get at it, I want to welcome our guests. Very distinguished, very experienced lawyers. You want to go first, Rich? Tell us about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Russ. And thanks again for having me on. It's an honor to do this and looking forward to our conversation. I'm Rich Harris. I'm the principal of the Harris Law Firm. We're headquartered in Denver, Colorado, and we have offices in a number of other locations around Denver, although I use the term offices loosely in the current environment, and more on that to come.
Great. Thank you for being with us. Brian Walters.
Yeah, I'm Brian Walters. I'm one of the two partners at Walters Gilbreath. We're based in Texas. I live in Houston, but we also have offices in Dallas, usually up there about weekly. Austin, where my partner Jay Gilbreth is based, and starting next month in June, we're going to have an office in San Antonio, the fourth of the large cities in Texas. So that's what we're doing.
Exciting stuff. Thank you for being with us. And somebody who probably needs no introduction, Brian Galbraith. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm the owner of Galbraith Family Law. We have 15 lawyers in the Barrie, Newmarket, and Toronto area just doing family law.
All right. Thank you for being with us, Brian. Let's get at it. So managing a law firm during a pandemic, what are you doing differently today than pre-pandemic? And how have you managed over the last 14 months, just in terms of the law firm and the day-to-day operations? You want to take a crack at this one first, Rich?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's a great question, Russ, but it's a hard one to give a short answer to, even if I wasn't a lawyer. So much has changed, and it's probably the understatement of the century to say it's been a strange year. We're doing a lot of things differently. I think that if I had to point to one thing, what's topmost in my mind is we are thinking a lot more about wellness and mental health for our clients, for our employees. I think we always thought we were focused on that, but as we look back, we've done so much more in the last year, and I've got to say, I feel like we have a lot more to do. Being physically spaced from our folks has required us to do things differently, to connect with people, to get to know them, to help them feel that they're part of an organization. And all at a time that, at least in our market, the demand for family law attorneys has never been so great. So we've had a lot of folks trying to come after our lawyers. We're proud of our lawyers. We've got some great people. And folks are feeling, for a lot of reasons, very uncertain and questioning what's going on in their life. And I think that a lot of people are thinking about changing jobs. So I bring that up because helping people feel connected to our organization, part of something that they're proud of and want to stay in, is hard enough as it is separated. But amidst this market, it's been incredibly more challenging, and that's a huge change.
Maintaining that firm culture, so important. Great insight, Rich. Thank you. Brian Walters?
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. We're doing less differently than I think many of our competitors are. We always had a policy of working remotely or working in the office, whatever you wanted to do. And so, and so for the first few weeks, we were, we didn't have anybody in the office, but, again, every jurisdiction is a little bit different about those things, but we've been flexible about that. Because not every, for some people, I think having, where they work or having choices, I think that does make a difference on mental health. And I've seen it. I mean, we had a Zoom call, a kind of a firm happy hour a few months ago. And I remember I hadn't seen a couple of the people in the firm that are in different offices in a while. And I remember looking at two of them in particular and just being like, wow, you can physically see that they're struggling through this. And I don't know if it's because of, I don't think it's because of their job necessarily, just because it's just would be difficult, I think, for anybody to go through what our societies have been going through the past 14, 15 months. So I think we looked at some of the companies that had done things most dramatically and most successfully during this. And a lot of them are the big tech companies. You probably read about Facebook or Google or what, their things. And so we've tried to be and more like them in some ways. We've tried to be very transparent about our compensation, for example, which nobody does and that I'm aware of in my jurisdiction, so that there's not this stress about who's making what, is this person making more than me, which also helps.
That can be a lightning rod, right? If one clerk thinks the other one's getting paid more and they've got more experience, it's just a recipe for
right. Or ironically, they incorrectly think what's going on with the other person is both upset for no reason. So there's that, and again the flexible work, but we've thought about for a while bringing in an in-house either part-time or full-time mental health professional, and we originally were going to aim that at our our clients, to offer them that as a service, because they're obviously going through difficult times. But we've thought about, and we should probably offer that to the staff as well, because I think that would help. So it's a really, really good insight, Rich. I agree with it. I don't have all the answers, but we're, as usual, we're kind of throwing things against a wall and seeing what works.
Right. Yeah. Mental health is so important. Brian Galbraith?
Yeah, I totally agree with you about the importance of trying to provide some opportunity for connection. I did a survey of the entire firm, the lawyers and all the staff, and that was indeed their biggest concern, is the lack of face-to-face connection with other people. And so we've been, doing like everyone else, trying to provide that connection through Zoom and so on, but it's still not the same. But I think there's now that we're getting to the point of being vaccinated, seems to be a lot more positivity in the office, because there's some hope, that we'll be able to spend a little more time in the office and seeing people, and they'll be able to see their own family and friends and interact more socially. So. But the big thing during this pandemic is like Brian and Russ and you too, Rich, we've always had that working remotely in place long before the pandemic. We've been had that capacity. In fact, my lawyers only had office space available every second day, so they had to work remotely. But our staff, that was a big transition. Was for our staff, all of a sudden they're pushed back to their homes to work remotely, and that was a big difference. And we're finding that one of the bigger challenges with that is training new people. How in the past they could sort of just sit at the desk of a more experienced person who's familiar with our ways of doing things, and learn by watching. But that's harder now that everybody's remote, and we're struggling to find ways to do that more effectively, so that they get the training they need, so that they have success going forward. The other thing is, technology. I spend so much of my time looking at new ways of leveraging technology systems and processes, and so that we can continue to get more efficient and effective. And that's a big component of what I'm doing. Always looking at new things and being told to slow down. We've got enough change going on. That's a lot of what I think we have to do as law firm owners is we're managers of change. And that's been certainly a significant period of change over the last year and a half. And it's a challenge to be able to coax people and support them and mentor them through all the changes that we've gone through and will continue to go through to be able to work effectively and efficiently. And then the other big thing that we're finding now is, law officers are busy, not just mine. And so trying to find new lawyers to add, trying to find new staff, very challenging because there's so much demand for good people these days.
Yeah, the change part of it is huge, and we've got a new Divorce Act, we've got new filing processes for the court, and we're going through technology changes. Great insight, Brian. We've hired to be on call 2 counselors to help our team with mental health, and they happen to be professionals we work with other families. And some of our lawyers felt that connection was too close to share. So we hired a 3rd counselor from out of province to help distance, so it'd be less awkward for our team to connect with them. We also hired a social worker to join our intake team to help clients manage their stress and what they're going through. So that's sort of been of a change that we've been going through. One thing I've noticed over the last year is we're managing a lot more than we ever did. We've broken into teams. Each team has separate meetings with managers. So we have the intake team, we have marketing team, we have the lawyers, and then we have the law clerks. So each team, this is sort of help build the culture, right? We have these team meetings. But prior to the pandemic, we would just have a firm-wide meeting. And now we've broken into teams and we're doing much more management than ever before. But people need that feedback, right? They're anxious, they're nervous. Like you said, Brian, it's very hard to get talent these days. But technology levels the playing field, right? Smaller firms in different regions now can bid for talent for people who don't want to work in the larger centers. Sorry, Rich. But it's an opportunity to recruit too, where that opportunity wasn't before. All right, so let's just get some tips in terms of what is specifically working. What do you found has really connected with your team, or that you found as a manager is really being effective? So let's go over to Brian Walters first.
Just trying to get more feedback. I think Brian G had exactly that. Is that I think sometimes employees are surprised. Oh, you really want to know things, and you can't just say, "How's it going?" Right? You need to either have something that's confidential, or ask the questions, sort of like cross-examination. Ask the questions to force the problems out, because otherwise people just tell you it's fine, and then someday get up and quit or whatever.
Right.
So to really drag that out, what my favorite question is, what can we be doing better, or what can we do for you?
Yeah.
And not accept nothing, or I'm fine or whatever. Except find something and then act on it, and not take any retribution if they complain about something.
Or don't ignore them. Say thanks for telling me, and
exactly
keep doing it the same way. Yeah.
Exactly. Really, yeah. So that's helpful. We realized we need to put more resources into that. In fact, pretty much need a full-time manager of people. Yeah. We've grown to that point now.
Yeah. For Mr. Galbraith, what's working?
Well, what we're doing is just similar to what you're doing, I think, in the sense of having smaller meetings with groups of people when we're trying to make things work more efficiently. If we started doing wills, for example, and so we had a meeting with just those lawyers who are doing wills to talk about that process and how's it working and how is the pricing working and that sort of thing. So having those smaller meetings on Zoom, that's, I think, been good. I think it feels empowering to people. They feel like their voice is being heard, and it's not just a top-down management structure. So I think that's helpful. But it's still a struggle because we're not in the same building ever at this point. So, but those smaller meetings are helpful, I think.
Yeah, it goes a long way to maintaining that culture that you had prior to the pandemic, right? That you're doing it remotely, but you're still connecting.
Each of you have some impressive things you're doing in terms of your own employees' mental health, in terms of bringing in professionals, and you're all ahead of our firm on that. It's a really interesting idea that we're going to further consider. So thanks for sharing that. We are, in terms of trying to keep this connectedness that we're all referencing. First of all, one of the things we did was we doubled the frequency of our all staff meetings. We were doing them bi-weekly, every other week. Now we're doing it every week. And the second in the cycle each time is not a full staff meeting per se. We break into smaller groups the way Brian G is referencing, an opportunity for us to get to know each other better. It's a fascinating thing to be in the situation where we have a dozen or more employees that I've never met in person because we've hired them in the last year. It's really kind of surreal. But what we've done in these smaller groups, and we call them wellness pods, is we've organized them so that we have a diversity of different types of professionals and different backgrounds. And we don't talk about the law. We don't talk about procedure. We talk about our families. We talk about travel. We talk about our pets, our kids, and it's not long. And I got to admit, as you guys well know, I'm not a big meetings guy to begin with. And I bristle when things impinge in my perception of my perfect schedule. I thought this sounded, I've got to admit, a bit touchy-feely at first, a bit, oh no, we don't have time for this, but it's been an amazing thing. Like a lot of things in the history of our practice, I've been proven wrong. Some of our folks are telling us that this is one of the best things we've ever done. They've enjoyed getting to know each other. They've enjoyed getting to know other people from different departments. And we have these meetings, and then we debrief with the leadership team of the firm. And we talk about how each of our groups are doing. So we're checking in, and we're trying not to make that fatal mistake of not following up, Russ, that you talked about. It's been, I think, really successful. It's one of those things, successful probably despite my best efforts to scuttle it. It's working pretty well.
How long are those meetings, Rich?
They're once a week. They're on Friday mornings. So we try and encourage a more casual atmosphere. And obviously they're all by Zoom. We're fully remote still. They're 30 minutes max.
Yeah.
And are they in the same group all the time for a period, or how does that work?
That's a good question, because we've been wondering about that, whether to mix things up. Sort of counterintuitively, at least by my way of thinking, we've had the same exact group now for 6 months. And what's happened is people are saying they feel more comfortable in sharing. They've gotten to know the other people in their wellness pod. They have 5 or 6 people in each one of them. And so rather than spreading it around and getting to know people more sort of superficially, this is a group of people that we've gotten to know each other pretty darn well.
That's great.
We had a social worker come in do a meeting of everyone in the office. And it was like an inventory of their well-being. And she had asked all these questions, and you'd write down a score. There must have been 30 different questions, about how you're doing in different circumstances and different behaviors and so on. And it really, I think it just normalized it, because the scores were not great. There were a lot of people struggling. And so when you know that you're not the only one struggling, somehow that makes the struggle a little less painful.
Yeah.
And it was an hour-long meeting, and she just totally made everyone feel like, if you're having a hard time, yeah, you're not alone, and it's normal, and we're there. We offer counseling as well to anyone who might want to go, but just knowing that they're not alone was a really good move, I think.
It's normal, your coworkers may be going through it too. Just to pick up on Richard's theme, one thing that we've done that's been pretty effective is we bring guest speakers in to present to the firm, unrelated to anything to do with the law. So the last one was a midlife rethink, 3-part series, and you map out the first half of your life, and you look at patterns and what you want to take from that and apply it to your second half of your life. And so throughout there were 1-hour sessions, or 1 hour and a half, and throughout these sessions they would have random breakout groups, sort of like what Brian does when he does his collaborative training. So you'd be put in a group with 3 or 4 team members of a firm of 30, and some people, the feedback was fantastic. Some people said, I never actually met this person or interacted with them on such a personal level. And they really got to know each other, which was, that's just priceless in terms of building morale and team play. We've got a senior clerk who might not interact with somebody on the marketing team, for example, right? So they're building these relationships. So that was something that was really quite successful, and I hope to do more of it in the future. Let's get predictions for the future moving forward. Hopefully we won't have to have a pandemic managers podcast 6 months from now, but who knows? So predictions for the future.
Well, I did a survey of the lawyers and staff about what they would like the future to look like. And nobody wanted to, almost nobody wanted to go back to 5 days a week in the office. Most of the lawyers thought, maybe 1 or 2 days would be good enough, and the staff as well. That for the most part, they like working remotely, but they miss the social aspect of being in an office together from time to time. So I think working remotely will continue to be a big part of what we do, and I think it's I'm so excited about the technologies that we're learning and that are developing, and I think that the technology growth has been accelerated during this pandemic, and that's not going to change. We're going to continue to be filing documents. Finally, we're able to file documents online in Ontario, which was a new development because of the pandemic. And I think that's going to continue to happen. And we're not going back to the old norm. You've heard the phrase, we're building a new norm. And I think that's truly is what's going to be moving forward.
It also reduces your footprint, right? And your overhead. You don't need desks or buildings for these people anymore. Your technology expense might be increased, but it's far less expensive than paying rent in a Class A building, for example. Rich, predictions for the future?
Well, our experience and my prediction is very similar to what you're both sharing. There is a new normal. I think that things have changed in terms of how we do business permanently. We are certainly having a different approach to physical office space. We're still, I think, always going to have a main headquarters, if you will, in our downtown office, but it's going to be smaller. and we're all going to be hoteling and sharing space, myself included. I think the days of anyone having the beautiful corner office, myself included, those days are gone. And I'm happy about it. You know, all those artificial hierarchies never served us well, in my opinion. We're going to have smaller offices in different geographic markets where our clients and our employees live.
Wait, seriously, you're gonna give up that beautiful corner office?
I'll keep it for you, Brian, for when you visit only. How about that?
It'll be the last thing that goes, Brian.
Yeah, right. This isn't being recorded, is it?
Too late.
All kidding aside, it is a different way to practice. And I think you've all had this experience of being pleasantly surprised. I certainly have, by how well our people have done. And early on in the first months after we closed, we kept sending out these emails almost apologetically that we were going to stay closed, and we were afraid that people were going to be in an uproar of wanting to return. But if anything, what we consistently hear is, please don't make me go back 5 days a week to downtown. I can't do it. I won't do it.
Especially for our more introverted team members, right? They love this. They didn't want to interact with people to begin with. It's just like a dream come true.
Now, some of them are just thriving in it. There's no
Yeah.
question about it. I think that the way not only we lawyers practice, but the other professionals we work with practice has permanently changed. I'm not sure mediators will ever have physical office space again because online mediation works so well.
Mhm.
And I'll be interested, offline, Brian G, on how collaborative is going remotely. I'd like to hear more about that. But mediators, even therapists, a lot of them are doing online. I think that'll continue. One last point. Interestingly enough, the Boulder County Chief Judge sent out something yesterday on our listserv for family law about the reopening schedule. And it was a sort of shocking response among the big family law community, almost outraged that how can you go back completely in person? We need in-person hearings for a lot of things, but some of the preliminary hearings and initial appearances work so much better, and it's so much less expensive for everybody to do it online. Please keep some of this stuff online. And I think that argument is going to win out. And I think a lot of hearings will permanently stay at some level remote.
Great insight. Mr. Walters?
Yeah, I don't have to squint quite as far in the future, which I'm probably not that good at anyway, because we've been pretty open here. We've been doing in-person hearings in some of the areas for a little while. The office has been, open to whoever wants to be here for a long time. So I think a couple things. I think everything I've heard, it's pretty consistent. We should be able to do these kind of, and I think even the judges agree most of the time that we should be able to do these smaller, less important hearings, discovery stuff, whatever, remotely. It's just better for everybody, or by submission, which is never been, Texas is like, come on down and let's fight it out in person. It's always been the approach. And everybody, I think, has realized that's silly for a lot of these things.
The tumbleweed rolling down the main street at high noon kind of thing,
Right.
or what?
That's right. It's kind of our identity, but I think people realize like there's no need to do that if you're going to argue about document production, right? Yeah. So then secondly, on the offices, I think you're exactly right. I was excited about this initially, like I'm not going to have an office for now, 4 offices, or are they going to be tiny and we're all going to, go in and out of 3 offices for 10 people, right? I don't think so. Just seeing what people have acted here. So I think everybody wants an office, but I think it can be really small, and I don't think people care too much anymore about the big corner office, right? So rather than, I probably get twice as many offices, just smaller ones. But everybody kind of wants a place to put the pictures of their kids and close their door. That's their stuff. And so I do think I haven't broken many people of that. And everybody that we've given the option to has come in, but it is definitely not very many are 5 days a week. I've got a bunch of people with young kids or whatever, and they enjoy the time at home. I think they also want to get out of the house occasionally. So it's probably averages 2 to 3 days, but there are some people, a couple who come in 5 days a week, and there's a couple who maybe come in 1 day a week. We're also moving our office out of, as the leases roll over, moving them out of downtown, which is also near the courthouse, partly because we don't need to be near the courthouse as much, and also because it's just a farther commute for most of the people who don't live there. So we're able to move it out, and they can come in when they want to. So all those things will change. I do think you're right that we'll also see a bunch of turnover of staff. I think a lot of people are kind of frozen in place and unsure what's going to happen. And now that we're coming out of this, in Texas in particular, very quickly, then you'll probably see more of those things moving. And lastly, I think good news for everybody here. I think the firms that are prepared and thinking about this and have adapted well to it, which I know is our firms, are going to really grow. And we made that decision 4 weeks into this thing. We did this, in early April, we decided this is going to benefit us. We need to be prepared to grow. Our only regret is not doing that faster and not being more aggressive about it. I think that we are now at the point where we sometimes struggle to staff cases and work the cases as much as we want to, and to hire as quickly as we want to. And I think the good firms are going to do that much better, and it's going to benefit those folks. So that's the things I see. We'll see if I'm right. Who knows?
That's great insight. And if you don't manage that growth, you're going to burn out your staff, right? If you've got more clients coming in than staff, that's when you're going to run into issues with mental health and burnout and missing deadlines and everything associated with it. So that's really good insight, Brian W. Thank you.
Can I ask Brian Walter a question? Since he in Texas is ahead of the rest of the country, did you find that when you opened up the economy that there was an increase in clients? Or because we all felt that the increase during lockdown and the stress of the pandemic, but now that things are opening up, do you find there's been a decrease or an increase in the clients?
For our business, yes. And what I'm not sure about if that's specific to us or specific broadly, I think it's a bit of both. From what I can see, I think there definitely were some people who held off on doing these things because of the pandemic. I also think that the experience of being locked down for for 14 months or whatever is a dynamic. And if we want to take a divorce in particular, where some people might have said, look, I don't like my spouse that much, but I sure do like my kids more than I thought since I'm with them, and I really don't want to be away from them. Or vice versa, like I could get away from my wife and go to the office and kind of put up with this, but now I'm stuck with this spouse I don't like, and I'm going to divorce him, and I wouldn't have divorced him before. So there's probably some going both ways, but we've become much busier. That's our experience.
Yeah, a really interesting insight about how clients are reacting. I think it's going to be a boom for all family lawyers once lockdowns are removed and the economy opens up again. People are waiting, are keen to travel, keen to make a change of some sort. What I'm predicting is for our team, I suspect some of our team's going to want to work remotely permanently. They're never going to come back. And I think we're going to need to accommodate that, especially, the stars that are producers, regardless of where their desk is. If they can do it from home, great. So I think probably a good part of our team will choose to work permanently. We haven't had that discussion yet, but I suspect we're going to have it. And a lot of them don't want to come back to the office. They may come back for a firm event, or, a Christmas party or some milestone. But it's not going to be 9 to 5. And I think Brian G was ahead of the curve 3 years ago when he started having these hot seats and only offering a couple of days of office space. And now I think our team members are going to demand it. The other prediction I have is there's just an opportunity for us to do things better. Prior to the pandemic, the complaints we all got was the justice system with respect to divorce was slow and expensive. Now we've got hearings that are Zoom. It's instead of a 5-hour court attendance, we're down to 30, 40 minutes. We can meet clients same day online. So there's lots of improvements and efficiencies that we're going to see to the justice system. But this has been fantastic insight today. I want to be respectful of the time of our guests and thank our guests for joining us, Rich, Brian G, and Brian W. If you have any thoughts or questions, leave it in the comment box below. If you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up. You can subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notification every time we upload a new video. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.